How to Talk to Anyone. Small Talk, Networking, and Communication Techniques Explained. Written by Jaden Haywards. Narrated by Jason Burkhead. Introduction. Often, if we struggle with a conversation, it is because we are nervous or self-conscious. That can become even more of a problem when we are talking with those we consider to be important. However, you can learn how to talk to anyone and feel comfortable doing it. This is very simple and easy. Perhaps you have been in the uncomfortable position where you wanted to have a conversation with anyone. However, you were at a loss of words. Have you ever wished you could learn to easily start conversations? These skills are not really so difficult to learn. Learning to make you talk to anyone is the same as learning any other skill. And the most important thing when learning any new skill is to practice as much as possible. In order to learn how to talk to anyone, learn a few techniques of conversational skills, then practice, practice, practice until you are comfortable making small talk. Chapter 1. Small Talk. Starting a conversation was never an easy thing to do. Starting a conversation needs a lot of confidence. Most of the time, heating up a small talk can make you sweat and shaky. On a date, that is. If you are after a successful evening, the topics to be discussed should be able to get the attention of your date. Boring topics can lead to a disastrous evening. The best thing to do is to know what kind of person you are going out with to be able to prepare interesting small talk topics. What if you have an intellectual for a date? You can't just sit there and talk about her favorite color, right? Get started with small talk. 1. The current events. Smart people are always aware of what's happening in the world. Using the current events as a topic is such a good way to go. Try reading the newspaper or even read the online news just so you have information on what's happening around you and around the world. Who knows? Your effort might pay off by bagging a second date, right? That is a news that you will certainly love to hear. 2. Books, movies, and music. If you love these, then you'll never have to worry about things to talk about. You can always start by asking on what kind of books she likes to read, movies she likes to watch, or music that she would like to listen to. It might sound boring, but you can make this big by giving smart and honest comments on her answers. With that, she'll definitely defend her views, and it will be a really fun conversation. 3. Anything that you're passionate about. If you're talking passionately to a person, that person can feel it. Anything that the two of you will passionately talk about will be very interesting. You can make the small talk smooth and without tension if you're already familiar and passionate about whatever you're both discussing. You can talk about your job, about your pet, or about your frustrations. With your enthusiasm, you can make it such a big topic to talk about. 4. Talk about politics or football. Some people love talking about politics or football. It is always a good small talk starter if you're on a date and your date seems to be interested in this kind of topic. Ask her about her political beliefs or club she supports, and I'm sure that it will become an intense conversation, especially if both of you have different sides to represent. Just be sure to end it on a happy note, since this is just all for fun and nothing too serious. You don't want to lose your chance for another date just because you called her unpatriotic. 5. Talk about how your day has been so far. If you do not normally strike up a conversation with a neighbor that you always run into in the hallway or with a cashier in the supermarket that you always go to, asking them how their day has been so far is a great way to make small talk. Also, practice makes perfect. And if you're not the outgoing type, There's no better way to start than now, so you should go out of your way and give out the impression to casual acquaintances that you're easy to talk to. Some small talk would not hurt anybody. In fact, it gives you an opportunity to broaden your social and personal relationships. How to talk to anyone. Perhaps you've been in the uncomfortable position where you wanted to have a conversation with a stranger. However, you were at a loss for words. Have you ever wished you could learn to easily start conversations? These skills are not really so difficult to learn. Learning to make small talk is the same as learning any other skill. The most important thing when learning any new skill is to practice as much as possible. In order to learn to talk with a stranger, learn a few techniques of conversational skills, then practice, practice, practice until you are comfortable making small talk. One thing you will want to do before initiating small talk is to make eye contact. The reason for this is that you do not want to startle your conversation partner. In addition, you want to make sure that they will hear what you say. The best way to ensure that they know that you're going to talk to them is to make a moment of eye contact before saying anything. The next step in starting a conversation is to make a comment on your environment, a question about something that both you and your conversation partner can see or experience will make the small talk more comfortable. For example, I've heard good things about the book you're reading. How do you like it? Avoid subjects you're not both experiencing. For example, a comment like, "What do you think about the new governor?" is not something you can both see or experience. A comment like that will give the impression that you're forcing a conversation. When learning conversational skills, listen carefully to what the person says and be prepared to give an appropriate response. Don't make the mistake of asking questions which could be answered with just a yes or a no, since this will cause the conversation to come to an abrupt halt. Try not to ask many questions after each other. This may give the impression that you're conducting an interrogation. On the other hand, don't talk only about yourself. This may give the image that you're self-centered. Try to talk more about the other person than about yourself. Don't forget, in the early stages, learning how to talk to anyone may be awkward. However, the more often you do it, the simpler it will be. Chapter 2. How to talk to anyone about anything. This very simple and easy to follow procedure will help you develop strong conversational skills with people you know and people you don't know. This skill is meant to help you build lasting connections with people and feel at ease while doing it, regardless of your knowledge of the subject or topic. In order for this simple procedure to work, you must be comfortable with your own ignorance. You can't be intimidated by another's superior knowledge or expertise. To be ashamed or embarrassed by what you know or don't know will bleed through in your conversation. Except for some egomaniacs, people normally get embarrassed when others are embarrassed. And that just makes the entire conversation awkward. Your ignorance or awkwardness is not the problem with developing communication or social skills. It's how you come across to the other person. If you are at ease with your own lack or mistakes, you'll invariably draw others to you. Now, for the procedure. Again, the key lies in the quality of the questions you ask. Everybody on the planet has their topics which they have become passionate about. Asking good questions about other people and what they do or like to do is one of the easiest and simplest ways to engage someone in a meaningful conversation. To talk to anyone about anything. 1. Be observant. This is important. When you meet people, notice what they wear, how they sit, their surroundings, especially if they were in control of the decor and any jewelry or pictures. Even noticing if someone is sad lonely, depressed, joyful, or happy is important. Picking up on another's mood could help you determine where or if you should engage them in a conversation. Try to pick up on the likes or dislikes of a person. For example, if you're eating with someone, notice what they order and what they specifically tell the waitress to withhold or add extra off. 2. Ask quality questions about their likes, dislikes, hobbies, and ambitions. This is to find common ground. The right types of questions, even if you know nothing about the subject, will give you valuable insights into the mind and think of the person you're talking to. For example, questions about a person's career may lead to similar desires for a longer vacation and may lead to realize you share a similar like for fishing. The conversation from there may center on your questions or his best fishing holes, favorite bait, and largest catch. Be aware that your questions hint at your design. Asking someone why he's a jerk may not be the best way to engage someone in a conversation. The right question, asking in genuine curiosity, is the easiest way to starting a good conversation. For example, I met a guy who was a private detective. The only thing I know about PIs is the Hardy Boys series I read as a kid. So instead of skirting the subject or asking ridiculous questions like, "You ever shoot someone?" I asked, "Do you find that line of work very intense?" His answer was yes and no. He then gave examples to prove his point. Nodding and understanding, I was then able to ask better questions about his job. We talked for a good hour and walked away feeling like we knew each other better. When your questions express your interest and curiosity in another person, you will normally get positive responses to your questions. 3. Insert familiar feelings or emotions of your own into the conversation. It's easy to hold a conversation once you've found common ground. Asking good questions and then adding your own similar thoughts into the conversation related to an area you understand is one of the easiest ways to get to know someone. Types of questions to ask. Here's a short list of do's and don'ts for asking questions. Don'ts. 1. Don't ask questions that will put the other person immediately on the defensive. An example is, "Did your mother pick that outfit out for you?" Or, "Do you always talk like that?" 2. Don't ask questions that are personal unless you know them really well or they have already brought you into their personal life. 3. Don't ask questions about yourself. This could make people very uncomfortable. Examples would be, "Do you like me?" Or, "Why doesn't anyone like me?" Or, "I like football. Do you like football?" This last one makes it sound that if the person you ask doesn't like football, then you won't like them. 4. Don't ask demanding questions. For example, "Why won't you go with me?" Or, "Aren't you going to help?" Or, "Is there a reason for?" 5. Don't ask off the wall or unrelated questions. Don't ask a question just for the sake of saying something. It will come across that way and make the rest of the conversation awkward. 6. Don't just disagree with someone's answer. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. Just ask questions. Do's. 1. Learn to laugh at yourself. One of the best ways to put someone at ease is to respond with a personal anecdote that puts yourself in a negative light. Making a joke of it will cause people to realize that you're at ease with yourself. You will find that in many cases, they will respond with their own anecdote. Be careful about making it too personal. There is such a thing as too much and inappropriate information. 2. Ask questions that show you are interested in who they are and what they do. Here's an example. "Is that a wedding ring? Awesome. How long have you been married? Really? Have any kids? Do you have any pictures of them?" 3. Ask questions that lead to more specific questions. Using the example in the last point, if you would have started the conversation with, "Can I see some pictures of your children?" without first leading to it with obvious questions, you might get a weird look. Start out with what is obvious. 4. Learn to ask for help or advice. Most people like to feel useful. If you're comfortable with your own ignorance and just want a bit of advice, ask. For example, "Man, I know nothing about cars, but maybe you can tell me why it does this?" After you get your answer, you can ask, "Wow, where'd you learn all that?" The answer will tell you a lot about the person and help you with relating to him in some manner. Take the time to study the procedure and practice it. Again, if you mess up, make a joke about it. Soon, you will be talking to anyone about anything. Chapter 3. How to Talk to People. Unfortunately, in today's fast-paced world, many people have forgotten or do not know how to talk to people. We have become so focused on ourselves that we think those around us are here for our purposes, that we are entitled to something. This sort of thing comes out of the way we talk to people, and we can always see it when such people talk to us. This sort of thinking is always more demanding than it is asking and is more about me than it is you. What's interesting is that we know how it feels to have someone talk to us in ways that disregard our input or minimize our equality. Yet many of us do the very same thing to others that we don't like them doing to us. There are a variety of different reasons why we do this, but the leading reason is that we have learned and made a habit of doing so. Since it's something we've learned, it becomes possible to change it by learning new ways of talking to people. Here are some things you can do to make your next conversation with someone a better one. 1. Keep it simple. Keeping it simple is actually a key to practically every relationship or friendship we enter or are involved with. Not many of us enjoy talking with anyone who we perceive as being complicated. And they're generally easy to identify because all they do is talk, and usually exclusively about themselves. Take the example of those experiences and apply them to how you talk to people. Keep it simple, concise, and as direct and to the point as possible. When you explain something to someone else, break it down into small little pieces that are easy to understand and comprehend. Many people like to show off their intelligence by using those big words that they put into their college thesis. This might be okay if the person you're talking to is a college professor. However, most of the people you'll talk to will not be of that intelligence level. So why talk to them like they are? When you do, it only shows your lack of consideration for them that you're showing off. Most people like communicating with those who speak in a simple and clean language they can understand. To use foul or street language to talk to your employer, teacher, parents, and many others actually demonstrates a lack of your intelligence and command of language usage, rather than how cool you are. 2. Let the other lead. Everyone wants to be a rock star. And we are at certain times, but we can't be all the time. There are times when we have to let go and sing back up and let the other take front stage and lead the direction the conversation is going to take. Knowing when to do this will dramatically help you talk to people more effectively. Letting the other lead talking basically shows that you don't have to be in control of the conversation to know you're part of it. People appreciate this kind of attitude in the people they are talking to. 3. Show understanding. We all want to be understood. And there's perhaps nothing worse than to be talking to someone who nods in acknowledgement to what we're saying, but when you ask what they think, to look at us with vacant eyes as if asking, "What'd you say?" This is in fact very rude and a good way to end a conversation on bad terms. When someone is speaking to you, be interactive with them and show sincere interest. You do this by asking questions about what they're talking about and give your input at the appropriate times. This is how to talk to people in a respectful, simple manner in which they can understand. And it facilitates conversation as the other person is better able to respond and feel comfortable doing so. Improving people skills. Some people are born to be social butterflies, while others need help improving their people skills. If you belong to the latter category, don't worry. You're not exactly a lost cause. There are plenty of opportunities for you to grow into a social butterfly as well. If you need help improving people skills and learn how to talk to anyone, then this part is for you. 1. Don't try too hard. The first thing you'll have to do is to stop trying too hard. If you think you always need to be witty and original when chatting with other people, then you've been watching too many late night comedy sitcoms. You might be surprised at how people are willing to talk about the most mundane of things. A simple, "How was your day?" can lead to all sorts of different topics. Be natural. Talk about the things that interest the other person more than your own. Save the witty repertoire for later. The more time you spend talking to different people, the better you'll be at improving your people skills. 2. Learn about other cultures. People who are well traveled are usually more open and comfortable talking to people. However, not everyone has the money or the luxury to jet off to different parts of the world. But who says you even have to leave your home to learn about other cultures? Go grab a book, search the web, or watch a movie. All these will help you get in touch with your inner person of the world. Not only will the knowledge open your eyes to new cultures and help you to talk to anyone, it will also help you embrace the fact that each person is unique and has something different to offer the world. 3. Make others feel special. When improving people skills, make others feel special. Remember their names, their or even their family members' birthdays, their favorite color, what's going on in their lives, etc. Remember anything they said to you about themselves. This is not so difficult, especially if you have a good memory. To help you remember the details, write them down. Get yourself a notebook and jot down the names of the people you've talked to, their interests, and other information about them. You'll be surprised at how pleased people will be when you remember something about them. And this is a great way to talk to anyone if you can't think of anything to say. In turn, they'll treat you better, and this will make it easier for you to relate to other people. Improving people skills is not an impossible feat. Even the most antisocial of people will benefit a lot from following these tips, as long as you remain open to the idea of communicating with others. Then you will go on to become the social butterfly you've always dreamed of becoming. How to talk to important people. Often, if we struggle with a conversation, it's because we're nervous or self-conscious. That can become even more of a problem when we're talking with those we consider to be important. However, you can learn how to talk to important people and feel comfortable doing it. That is a good thing because sometimes we all have to talk to important people. Here are a few tips to help you do just that. 1. Consider your approach. This is probably the most important aspect of talking to important people because it makes you think about every aspect of how you communicate. Really, in communication, the only thing you have to fear is the other person not understanding your point or being offended by what you say or how you say it. You can rectify all these errors by getting your approach correct. So, in that respect, talking with someone important is just like talking to anyone else. 2. Show respect. You show respect to anyone with whom you communicate, but that matter can get a little more complex when you speak to important people. It depends on what makes them important. For instance, if you're talking to top politicians, royalty, high court judges, etc., then an additional aspect to showing them respect is in using their proper title to address them. There may also be additional etiquette to follow. However, if this is not the case and you're talking to someone who is important because they're your boss, your future parent-in-law, a potential client, etc., then ordinary everyday respect will suffice. That is the key to this communication, and our remaining points unpick that respect idea a little more. 3. Listen to the other person. Everyone, no matter who they are, is important enough to be listened to. You should actively listen so that you pick up not only on the subject matter of what they say, but also so that you can read between the lines and decipher their feelings on it. 4. Let the other person speak. Listening well also means allowing the other person to speak freely. That will help them to feel respected and gain a favorable impression of you. That is probably what you want to happen. 5. Have a stack of safe topics. There may be certain topics which are off limits when talking to an important person. What those topics are depends on how that person's important to you. If you know what topics would be improper to speak of, such as company politics with your boss or White House secrets to the president, steer clear of them. It's not smart or funny to raise these topics in conversation and may cause a lot of embarrassment to the other person and then ultimately to you. Instead, think up a list of easy topics of conversation they will probably have an opinion about, which they will not feel judged by sharing with you. That should help the conversation flow nicely, whoever you're talking with. 6. Use appropriate body language. Your body language says a lot about what you're thinking and feeling. That can be a major aspect of talking to important people. Due to their status, they will probably be expecting respect from you. So make sure your body language shows that as well as your words. Be careful not to invade the personal space of the person you're talking to. Also, don't touch them unless you know them very well, and also know that such a touch will be welcome. An unwelcome touch can feel very threatening and can ruin a conversation. If you follow these simple rules, you will soon feel at ease with how you talk to important people, as it is much of the same as talking to anyone else. Everyone deserves your respect in a conversation, and now you know how to show it. How to talk to people even if you are shy. Do you sometimes feel a little shy when it comes to talking to people or carrying on a conversation? This part is going to share with you on how to talk to people. There are 3 tips on how to improve your communication skills in this area. The first tip is to smile. When you smile, it makes you more welcoming to people. And also, people want to talk to people who smile. So first, you want to smile. Second is to ask questions. By asking questions, you're showing interest in the other person. A person who asks questions is going to have great social skills. They will improve your conversation skills. The final tip is to listen. If you're a good listener, it will be very easy for you to talk to people. The people who are greatest at conversation know how to ask questions and how to listen. Show your listening. Nod your head, ask questions, and make a few comments. As you do this, you'll find that it is very easy to talk with people. So again, how do we talk with people if you are shy? Well, it's pretty simple. Smile, ask questions, and listen. Doing this will improve your social skills, and you will have fun talking with people, whether it's a guy, girl, coworkers, or anyone. To reiterate, smiling opens the door to the conversation, asking questions shows your interest in them, and listening shows that you are truly interested in whatever they have to say. Chapter 4: How to be more social. Are you someone who doesn't like to go out or interact with other people? If you are, you need to realize that you're making it harder on yourself to get over this. They say that idle hands are the devil's playground. Likewise, idle minds too. You must get out and do social things. Even if you're someone that is the most sociable and outgoing, you'll suffer from moments of shyness and self-doubt. Then it's time you took action. Or you regularly feel uncomfortable and uncertain in social situations. It can be a crippling and frustrating experience. You want to be more social, but you just can't do it. Here are some tips for you. Tips to be sociable. 1. Change your attitude. Many antisocial people can be quite critical and negative of both themselves and others. They are antisocial because they are fearful of being judged by others, but at the same time, they are often harsh critics of others. If you find yourself being critical of others and of yourself, it's important to recognize this and to do some work in changing your attitude. Instead of focusing on the negative in a person, try to actively identify positive things. Do your best to be more open to situations and people. Don't assume that you know everything about everyone based on minor interactions. Attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. 2. Accept that it's not all about you. Many shy people feel so self-conscious because they're constantly worried that everyone is looking at, judging, or watching them. Generally, people are much too wrapped up in their own lives and concerns to notice too much about what is going on with another person. Most people are usually too busy worrying about themselves and their own lives than to be spending a lot of time judging you. 3. Make a change plan. Developing yourself on being more social? Start with small steps. Strike up conversations with people you interact with on a daily basis. It could be the cashier at the supermarket, the person you buy your lunch from, or a coworker you always see in the break room. And spend time with your more social friends. Force yourself to do things with them that you wouldn't normally do. They are your friends, so they will be there to support you if you start feeling insecure or alone. When you are invited to do something, accept the invitation. Don't let yourself make up a lot of excuses about why you can't. You really can change, so make a change plan and stick to it. 4. Work with a therapist, counselor, or life coach. Turning to a professional can really accelerate your social progress. An experienced therapist, counselor, or coach can help you overcome your difficulty and make being more social much easier. With the right therapist, you might be surprised at how rapidly this can be accomplished. In the end, being more social really is down to you and your commitment to making it work. Think about the hardest thing you have ever learned to do. At first, it might have seemed impossible, but each time you did it, it got easier and easier. Becoming more social works in a similar way. Always take small steps every day, and in no time, you'll be a much more sociable person and feel a whole lot happier for it. 5. Practice makes perfect. Yes, that old saying is still true. With anything in life, the more you do it, the easier and more natural it becomes. The same is true for being more social. It might feel difficult or really frightening at first, but with practice, it will slowly become easier and less scary until it becomes surprisingly easy. Another way of becoming more social is to commit to doing it. And this doesn't mean that you have to put yourself completely out of your comfort zone, right away, but it does mean that you need to put yourself out there little by little and as often as possible. How to be less nervous. Do you get really nervous around anyone you like? Do you absolutely dread going to social events? Maybe you're a little shy or you just lack a little confidence. Something I hear from people saying all of the time is, once I get to know someone, I'm really comfortable. But when I meet someone for the first time, I get really nervous. And what do I say back? Of course you do. Everyone does. This is what is known as a truism. It means that it's true for everyone. So stop thinking that you're alone here and that there's something wrong with you. There isn't. Here are 4 keys that will enable you to drop your being nervous and allow you to be social in your day-to-day activities. 1. Realize that no one gives a crap about you. You heard me. No one gives a crap about you. And I mean that in the most positive way imaginable. We as humans are so narcissistic that when we walk into a room, what to say? We think that everyone's watching us because we are the center of our own universe. But in reality, everyone is the center of their own universe. So if you do something stupid or embarrassing, just remember, no one really cares. 2. If you want to start being really social in a room, just focus on the behavior of actually doing it, rather than the outcome of the interactions. This is called being outcome independent. Stop concerning yourself with the outcome of an interaction and just be happy that you are committed to making it happen. Set a goal to talk to 5 people in a given night, and don't worry about anything else other than that behavior of just being social. 3 is living and dying by the 5-minute rule. This means that you'll give anyone, and I mean any frickin' one, 5 minutes of your time. The only obvious exception is, of course, if you feel unsafe. Then please, always listen to your gut. Most women spend their entire night fixating on 1 or 2 guys and wonder why they get nervous when they actually meet them. Open up your horizon to anyone in the room. It'll build your confidence, and you'll just never know who you might be attracted to. The art of asking the right questions. One of the fastest and simplest ways to talk to anyone is to ask questions about them. Probing or asking appropriate questions at the proper time allows you to find their needs and to gain an idea of how much a solution is worth to them. When you become comfortable enough to reveal feelings, needs, current situations, and desire, it takes great skill, but once you master the art of asking the right questions, you're able to start and sustain ongoing conversations that can result in talking to anyone. As your skill in the art of probing will enable you to unearth and pinpoint the needs of the prospect, everyone knows how to ask questions, but are you asking the right questions in a social situation? Knowing how to question others effectively is both a skill and an art. How to begin? Asking questions effectively requires a little forethought. For example, what is it you really want or need to know? Why do you need the information? How much detail do you require? Who is or are the right resources? How do you gain access to these resources? What do you need to know about a resource in order to get the resource's best response? What form of response do you desire? What are your criteria for satisfaction? You may consider these factors unconsciously most of the time. However, make no mistake, asking yourself these questions before you approach a resource saves time and makes all the difference in your success at getting the result of information you desire. Be prepared. No successful interviewer or journalist goes into an interview unprepared. Neither should you. Lack of preparation will severely limit your chances for success. It is imperative that you be clear about the exact nature of the information you seek and why you're asking the question in the first place. This keeps you focused and proves justification for the request. 1. Are you looking for information, a perspective, expert advice, a referral or introduction, directions, reassurance, support, and or a potential starting point? 2. How much do you need or want to know? What level of detail do you require? What are your criteria for satisfaction? 3. What is the level of security associated with the information you seek? 4. What form of response will suit you best? Answers can take many forms: words, sign language, pictures, schematics, or blueprints, mathematics, music, or some other sensory format. 5. What is the relative importance, priority, associated with your query? 6. How urgently do you need a response? Be clear about your intentions. People, especially strangers, are more likely to answer your questions when they understand your reasons for asking. Obvious? Yes. But if you're walking away from a conversation feeling cheated or dissatisfied with the exchange, part of the problem may be rooted in whether or not you asked the questions that you intended to ask. Approach the appropriate resource in the right context. When requesting information or clarification, do you make your questions count by consulting the most knowledgeable resource available? Or do you simply start asking questions of whoever is around and hope for the best? Ask around, consult the media, the internet, professional organizations, or a trusted friend or associate. Credentials may give you a clue, but a successful track record is more important. Find out what you can about a targeted resource. Even comments made by enemies or rivals can be revealing. How do you know whether or not your targeted resource will speak with you or be willing to answer your questions? You don't. However, as the saying goes, nothing ventured, nothing gained. If the person snubs you or doesn't return your calls or email, be persistent but polite. If that doesn't work, try something else. One more thing: never assume that anyone is the absolute authority on anything. Get a second and third opinion where possible. Are you being sensitive to the best timing, both with regard to when a question is appropriate and the duration of your questioning? Approach each targeted resource in a respectful manner and at an appropriate place and time. Be creative, but not intrusive or obnoxious. Seek an introduction through a mutual contact. If that's not possible, take a chance and call or email the targeted resource. Whether or not they respond is always their choice. Build rapport. Once you make contact, try to establish rapport with the resource by making your case. Common experiences. Start by asking questions about experiences and or perspectives that you may have in common. Abilities and knowledge. Share your skills, knowledge, and abilities in a manner that is helpful to your resource. A dialogue is a mutually beneficial exchange. A monologue becomes either a soapbox harangue or a self-promotion. Sincerity. Be sincere. Be yourself. Who else could you possibly be? Speak from your heart and with conviction. Etiquette. Be polite and respectful. This builds rapport more easily than demands and sarcasm. Don't waste time asking questions of people who can't or won't give you a satisfactory or complete answer. There are lots of resources available. Take your best shot and don't allow yourself to become discouraged when your attempts don't always work out as expected. Speak a common language. Proper preparation, clarifying and focusing on your intent, and targeting the appropriate resource in the right context will all contribute to your success as a questioner. However, the way you compose and express a question, the language, and delivery used is equally important. The language of your question needs to be in terms you and your resource both understand. Even when speaking the same ethnic language, English, Spanish, Russian, etc., your choice of terminology, phrasing, and nonverbal cues makes a difference. For example, you may think you are asking one question while the resource hears a different question. In turn, the response you receive may seem unclear or be misinterpreted by you, simply because you and your resource are not speaking the same language. Practice, practice, practice. Granted, given the circumstances and time constraints, you may not always have a pre-planned list of questions handy, but the art of asking pertinent and useful questions can become second nature to you. It can be developed and mastered with practice. Remember, learning to ask the right questions takes both skill and creativity, but anyone can become a competent practitioner if willing to put in the effort. Why is it important to ask the right questions? Why do we need to be good at asking questions? What are the right questions? Evidence shows that people who are successful in business, problem solving, and decision making are able to ask good questions and more effectively analyze the data that is presented to them. To be successful, an individual has to be good at decision making, as cultural conditions have evolved to a point where people have more choice than ever before. Coupled with this, we find that the global economy is growing increasingly complex and fast moving. And as a result, business objectives are becoming more fluid. In this environment, it is essential that people are able to ask the right questions and get the right answers in order to make decisions, plan strategically, and to achieve their goals. People are now faced with thousands of decisions to make every day, whether small things such as the type of coffee to drink or something more weighty such as the nature of career to pursue. Some questions are more important than others, but our education does not necessarily equip us to ask the right questions of an important discussion or even identify which of the most important discussions are. Formal education is under a lot of pressure to impart reams of information in core subjects to fulfill the requirements of the curriculum. This means that less time is spent on teaching, inquiry, and giving students the tools they need to analyze and act upon the data they are presented with. In our institutions, the primary concern is with imparting packages of information, and yet today, just knowing something does not necessarily set you apart from the crowd, as we have more access to raw data than ever before. This accessibility to information is mainly due to the World Wide Web. The internet has been a huge driver behind the recent cultural change. The information available via the web has been a real plus in helping speed up communication, increasing exposure to information, and the allowing the global dissemination of new ideas. But there is also a downside. The internet has further multiplied available choices and the information to the extent where it can be unmanageable. That is why we are so reliant on search engines such as Google. But whatever your question, however specific, you are still likely to be presented with millions of potential data sources within a fraction of a second. In these circumstances, if a process is not used to evaluate a decision, it is easy for someone to become overloaded with data, something referred to analysis paralysis, or for them to miss out on important factors when making a selection and just to make a gut decision for the sake of ease. All this has a direct effect on business. The CEB, a member based advisory company based in the US, recently did research showing that few employees display the most important core competencies that employers need. In other words, in today's high tech world, high performers obviously need to be technologically savvy, but there are many other skills that are just as important. It is also vital that they can prioritize, work well in teams, have organizational awareness, as well as demonstrate learning agility and the power to influence. Such workers need to be self aware, proactive, display effective problem solving skills, and make effective decisions. A unifying factor to these competencies is the ability to ask the right questions. Therefore, it is important that people recover the ability to question and to have tools that are easy to remember and use in order to deal with complex and evolving situations that they face. Fortunately, the core questions needed to analyze a situation are actually embedded in the English language. The 7 basic interrogative questions of what, where, why, when, who, how, and which can be the triggers needed to unlock any problem. It is just a matter of understanding their application. Using open questions encourages divergent thinking and the formulation of a range of answers rather than just a perspective or preordained solution. This first principles approach to questioning is something that needs to be rediscovered, whether that is in education or in business and strategic planning. Chapter 5: Small Talk During Dates. Talking to anyone can be a very awkward experience. The both of you don't know each other that well, and you don't know what interests you share in common. Many people don't like to be put in these types of situations, but if you are in one, it's always good to come up with a bunch of topics to discuss beforehand so that you ensure you guys have things to talk about during the date. If you haven't done all of the small talks and cover the basics over the phone or email, you'll have to ask where he or she is from, went to school, age, interests, and other standard questions. This can be a bit painful, but you need to establish a baseline for how you get to know each other. Hopefully, these types of questions and introductory conversation will naturally lead to a more in-depth conversation about random topics that pop up. If not, it's always good to bring up travel and if the other person studied abroad. This is a great subject to discuss since most people have been somewhere outside the country and it is very interesting to talk about. Another great topic to discuss is what you did during your summers as a child. There's always a possibility that you find overlap or a common connection because of summer camp, a teen tour, or an academic program. In addition, if you find out you have mutual friends, it will be a big boost to gaining credibility for the both of you. It's always good to talk about interests, but also future goals. Never bring this up formally, but if it happens to come up in conversation, it's a great way to get to know someone. Shared interests can also help the both of you find things to do together for future dates. Questions to start conversations. 1. How was your day? This is always a nice conversation opener. It's easy to answer, and the person you ask is bound to have some opinion on it. Giving the other person a chance to talk about him or herself and focusing on them shows that you are polite and caring. Also, it gives you an opportunity to learn more about the other person. You'll hear what they did with their day, and that might also give you clues about any family, work, or hobbies they have. You can then pick up on any of these things to develop your conversation with them. 2. What do you do with your spare time? It's a great question to start conversation with. It helps both of you see how much you have in common, and that gives you a whole raft of ideas to continue the conversation. You can both talk about why you love the hobby and how long you've been doing it. 3. What do you do for a living? Will give you fertile ground for finding out about the other person and asking more questions. 4. Have you been on holiday this year? Will give you plenty to talk about. Most people have either recently been on a vacation or they're planning one. Good or bad, they'll love to share their vacation stories with you. 5. Do you have any family? Is a gentle, sensitive way of opening up a potentially easy subject for conversation. Phrasing the question like that also avoids potential embarrassment over divorce, sexuality, or childlessness. The trick, if there is any, with asking questions to start conversations is to ask an open-ended question on a normal, everyday topic that the person you're talking to will find it easy to answer on. You're trying to get to know them, not interrogate them. A conversation needs to be a two-way process, and asking an easy question is the perfect way to draw in the other person and make it a conversation. Ways to start a conversation. Starting a conversation with someone you don't know well can seem like a scary business. You probably stand and watch the room full of strangers, hoping desperately that someone will talk first. Anyone but you. Both of these skills are not hard to learn and can greatly boost confidence. Knowing how to confidently talk with other people allows you to make friends and increase your popularity. To start a conversation. 1. Start with the introduction basics. It is the basic conversation starter, and we must remember to do it right. A younger person is introduced to an older person. A man is introduced to a woman. A less important person is introduced to a VIP. Say the name of the person who is older, the woman, and the VIP in that order. 2. Make it a skill to remember names. Nothing is more embarrassing than getting caught trying to remember a name of a person who had been introduced to you several times. Here are some helpful tips to recalling names. A. Listen as the person gives you his or her name. B. Study the business card of the person to help implement the name in your memory. C. Repeat it several times during the first few minutes of the conversation. D. Use it when you introduce the person to others. E. On another note, it is vital that you use the name of the person as you make your rounds to say goodbye to everyone you met. 3. Look around you for things to talk about. Is there something familiar around? A painting, a jar, decors on the wall? These are good things to start conversation with. But if the place is so plain with no interesting background, try the food or the drinks as a starting point. 4. Polish up your conversation style. Get updated with the latest, hottest news. They provide good conversation starters. Even the latest in celebrity gossip or a piece of sensational scandal can break the ice. It's also still best to have current affairs and general knowledge at hand, because you just do not know the interests of the people that you will meet. 5. Bring your own conversation piece. Conversation pieces are things you can bring to a gathering or on a get-together where you believe you have less or no acquaintances at all. You could wear eye-catching accessories like hats or jewelry that will catch the attention of other people. But make sure you have a story that goes with it. Sometimes it pays to be interesting. 6. Weave newcomers into the conversation. Introduce a person who joins the group as soon as possible, or allow the person ample opportunity to do so, as the case may be. Make a quick review of the topic of the group for the benefit of the newcomer, then ask a comment or an opinion from them. 7. Ask open-ended questions. Oftentimes, we are faced with one-word answers, yes and no. If you are the kind who is not yet comfortable in starting a conversation, this would be very disappointing. always have 2 or 3 open-ended questions or statements reserved at all times. 8. Assume responsibility for starting a conversation. A simple hi or how are you are simple starters. Make sure that people will remember you after the event by their knowledge or fun they have shared with you. When you want people to shut up. Many people dread the thought of attending an event where they know no one. In fact, such people often opt to invite a friend or two to accompany them to the function. Fear of being rejected makes people avoid starting a conversation with a stranger. Having little knowledge of a specific subject may also make someone find it difficult to strike a conversation. Some people talk just to hear themselves talk, while others have to explain every minute detail of their lives. Some people never seem to shut up, no matter whether they are monopolizing the conversation or you have a meeting to start or whatever. You will no doubt be familiar with these people because they are also the ones who can never let you finish your story because they unkindly interrupt you with a similar story that to them is even better. However, the person is talking too much. You can get them to shut up. You need to if you're going to get them to listen to you. People who can't shut up generally just ramble on from subject to subject, even when the subject they're bouncing to has no relevance to the topic that is actually being talked about. These folks can be some of the most irritating people to be socializing with. They can, in a real sense, put a damper on an otherwise enjoyable time, so to save you a lot of frustration, you need to know how to cope with that. How to get people to shut up can be a challenge, but it can be done. Here are some ideas that should help you. 1. Be serious without trying to offend when letting the person who can't shut up know that they need to shut up. They need to know that you really want them to be quiet, but if you offend them, it could be counterproductive, making them angry and aggressive and ultimately more of the problem than just talking a lot. 2. Body language. There are many body language signals you can send, along with gentle comments that could send the message, please shut up, to the person who talks too much. If you're good enough about subtly letting them know enough is enough, you could save them some embarrassment, which would naturally offend them. 3. Try staring for a few seconds. Just stare at people who can't seem to shut up to help them get the idea that they should stop talking now. A good stare with a serious expression on your face will let them know that you're tired of listening to their noise. 4. Ignore them. This is a powerful message to send to a person who just can't keep their lips from flapping. The downside to ignoring anyone is that it's always taken as an offense. 5. Don't laugh at jokes of the people that you want to shut up. Don't give them this approval because it only gives them fuel and energy to keep talking because now people are laughing because of them. Fortunately, most people who can't shut up do catch on to the ignoring, the stares, and the lack of laughter at their jokes as a time to really shut up or exit stage left. 6. Walk away when nothing else works in shutting someone up. There's only so much any of us can take if we are faced with someone who just won't shut up. When someone who is talking too much is really getting on your nerves, you have 2 choices. The first is to confront them, which then can turn into something neither of you wants if you don't implement the above steps very carefully with tact and diplomacy. Or you can do the difficult thing, but sometimes the right thing, and walk away. This may be the only choice if you're worried that tackling the person any other way would provoke them with anger. That would help no one. How to get people to shut up is not all that easy at times. People who talk a lot can really get on your nerves, and they can be very hard to be around. Chapter 6. Talking to your boss. Most of us unless we are extremely fortunate, will have worked with a difficult boss. The vast majority of resignations are to do with employees not seeing eye to eye with their manager. Here is how to deal with some of the most common problems. 1. The bad leader. Maybe it is their poor people skills or their inability to deal with problems, but working with a manager who cannot manage means you are being unsupported. Deal with it. Your boss may not have had management training, which makes them very vulnerable, but they must have done something right to get to this position. Sit down with them and explain how you like to work and ask them how they would like you to work together. You should be able to create a closer bond to enable you to become a more valued member of their team. 2. The control freak. This type of boss leaves you completely frustrated as they constantly monitor everything you do and watch your every move, giving the impression that they do not trust you. Deal with it. Some people need to be involved throughout, so don't take it too personally. But the best way to handle the frustration is to talk openly with them and discuss what it is you will be doing before you start. Ask for their input or suggestions and outline which route you would prefer. Discuss with them how much more productive you will be if you have some space and ask how you can meet their needs. Agree to review the situation periodically. 3. The flirt. Male or female, a boss who flirts to get their own way can be a real tough situation to handle. You and your colleagues are never certain which way to respond to them. Deal with it. What is office banter to one person may be crossing the line to another. If you feel their behavior is unacceptable, look them in the eye and tell them firmly you do not like it. If the behavior continues, tell them you will be reporting the matter to the HR department, and if things do not improve, this could lead to disciplinary action. Make sure to keep a log of exactly what has happened. 4. The bully. This kind of boss has no problem shouting and intimidating those around them whenever they feel like it, which leaves you and your colleagues feeling humiliated. Deal with it. The only way to deal with this is to confront them, but do not make it too personal. Instead of, when you shouted at me and put me down, say, when you criticized my idea, then explain the impact this has on your performance. Acknowledge your contribution to any conflicts. This shows you are taking responsibility for your own actions. Suggest a solution to resolve things and ask for constructive criticism on any assignments you are working on involving him or her and your ideas before you implement them. Talking to celebrities. Your boss or someone you're trying to impress shares with you that they are the biggest XYZ fan. You should be thinking at that moment, when opportunity knocks, take it. They begin to tell you about favorite movies they've watched with a celebrity in them. They add they personally met him or her somewhere and they are so nice. Meanwhile, you don't know much about the celebrity, but you may want to know more since the big fan of XYZ's is important to you and may be able to help you in the future. The following tips are great conversation starters and ideas on how you can get on the excited fan's good side when performed gradually and not daily or every week. You will build a positive relationship with that important person and will not appear to look like the teacher's pet or a stalker. 1. If the celebrity is an actor, pick a few specific scenes from movies that he or she has performed, other than the nudity shots, that will start a conversation. Know the names of some of their early movies. If the celebrity is a singer, comedian, or dancer, know about a few places they have entertained audiences. Throw some years in so you look like you know what you're talking about. For athletes, politicians, speakers, ministers, etc., mention books they've written, most exciting moments on television, opportunities you may have got to meet them, etc. 2. If you remember the celebrity on a talk show, mention the conversation he or she had with the host. Comment on what was said and how he or she looked. If you can't remember, visit a website that you can search for past television shows and the celebrity's name. 3. Find a collectible, whimsical gift, book, magazine, or product the celebrity may have created. The fan will appreciate your thoughtfulness. However, when buying books, don't buy unofficial autobiographies. They're not celebrity endorsed. Also, don't burn copies of DVDs and music. It is illegal and, most of all, tacky. 4. Know some general facts about the celebrity. Birthdays, where they were born, how they got their name to fame. Personal likes and dislikes, marriages, divorces, etc. Also look for little-known facts, like the nickname their mom gave them or a funny event that happened to them in grade school. 5. Find current news about the celebrity. Is she pregnant? Is she getting married? Does she have a new film? When will this new album be released? Where will the band perform? 6. Rumors are interesting, but be careful how you deliver them and which ones to select when conversing with the fan. If you should mention one, ask rather than tell. I heard that XYZ has been seen doing. Do you think that is true? 7. Invite them to see a movie or a concert with the beloved celebrity performing. 8. If the excited fan says at any time, "Oh, I didn't know you were an XYZ fan," nonchalantly say, "I like to read about celebrities from time to time." You don't want your intentions to lead to false hopes for the fan, such as, "We can start a fan club," or "Let's hang out outside her home or visit her on the set." Nor do you want future conversations to become nothing more than about the celebrity. Find a way to ease your intentions into each conversation. This is just a start to trying to build a positive relationship with this person. 9. Surprise the fan by taking them to a place the celebrity may have visited, auditioned, a past movie set, a place she grew up, or a business they've established. 10. Share information with the fan about your favorite celebrity. Who knows? Maybe one day you might receive a really nice gift. This has been How to Talk to Anyone. Small talk, networking, and communication techniques explained. Written by Jaden Haywards. Narrated by Jason Burkhead. Copyright 2018 by Jaden Haywards. Production copyright 2018 by Jaden Haywards.